Hello and welcome everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar on Global State of Scams 2022. My name is Alona Borzemska and I am the CCO at the DomainCrawler, and today I will be the host of this webinar brought to you by the DomainCrawler and Global Anti-Scam Alliance. A little bit of the background: our two companies work together to make an internet a safer place for everyone. And so today we are discussing the global state of scams based on the report produced by GASA, the Global Anti-Scam Alliance. And based on that, we will see how we can fight online scams and online counterfeiting on individual, business, and state levels. We have great speakers today with us. I will start with Jorij Abraham. He is the general manager of GASA. Jorij has been part of the international e-commerce community since 1997, and now he is managing director of the e-commerce foundation, whose mission is to foster global digital trade. And Jorij also manages the scamadvisor.com, the global blacklist for malicious websites. And he's also an e-commerce professor at the University of Applied Sciences. So thank you, Jorij, for joining us today. That's an honor and pleasure for us to have you today. And we also have Rickard Vikström today with us, who is the founder of DomainCrawler. Rickard is an expert in everything when it comes to the hosting, domain names, and IT security. Over the years of his career, he has been involved as the founder and board member in many companies, including the Home Security, Stay Secure, Wincher, Internet Vikings, and of course, DomainCrawler. And in 2008, Rickard and his business partner, they started a project which later became DomainCrawler, a separate company now, a leading B2B provider of structured domain data. So that was the introductory part about our speakers. Now I'd like to have the same kind of the introduction part with people who joined us today. So feel free to put down in the chat box more information about you, like where you're coming from, what industry do you represent, or what part of the industry do you represent. That would be nice to learn. So we have Fabio with us. That is always like interesting to see what people are joining the webinar. We have John McCormick, hoster stats, domain stats, and web usage analysis. Welcome, John. We have Oscar Morales. Yeah, hello, Oscar. I know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to name all of the companies if people do not mention that. So I will keep it to myself. Greetings from Frankfurt, Germany. I am from DNIC, the German registry. Nice to meet you, Fabio. Thanks for joining. We have, hello everyone, Severin Costa, branded, online brand protection specialist and investigator. Hello, Severin, nice to have you today with us. And we have the Oscar from Redpoints, brand protection company, Matthias Centralnik, nice to meet you guys. Gilbert from Singapore, Photo Labs Singapore, incident response. Peter from Prague. Okay, Philip Corwin is reporting an issue that he is not seeing or hearing anything. But I think since our other people are responding, then I think that's all okay. We have our administrator today, Vova, with us. Maybe, Vova, if you can share a couple of the advices in the chat to enable the audio and video. And we have Oliver today with us. We have Philip Corwin from VeriSign. We have Mike Andrews, UK National Trading Standard e-crime. Berend van Delfin, hello from. So Brand Shield, Red Points, Teresa, Lars from Eco. So we have quite an audience here, quite a lot of people, the industry people. That is nice. That is super interesting. I think we will have a super interesting conversation later today. So whenever you have a question, or whenever anything comes to your mind regarding the topic that we will be discussing, please feel free to put that into the chat, and we will make sure to answer that during the webinar itself or by the end of it during the Q&A session. So thank you guys for sharing this information. Thank you for joining us today, for saving this time in your calendar. We really appreciate it. And as a great bonus for everyone who is with us today, we will make sure to send you the presentation and the slides from our speakers afterwards, along with the recording of the call itself. So you can share with your colleagues, or you can share it to the other people who might be interested in this kind of information. And I have more great news to share with you. In almost 2 weeks, GASA, Global Anti-Scam Alliance, that's the abbreviation, is organizing an offline event, the Global Anti-Scam Summit, that will take place in The Hague in November 9th, 10th. So everyone who stays with us till the end of the webinar, till the end of this session, will have an opportunity to receive a discount for the admission ticket. So please make sure to stay up to the end and join that great offline event. So now I think I have said enough. And without further ado, I will turn the stage over to Jorij, who will start his presentation. So please, Jorij, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Alona. Just to double check, do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you again for having me. Very happy to be here. As Alona was saying, I've got two hats. I run the Global Anti-Scam Alliance as well as scamadvisor.com. But our shared mission is to help consumers not get scammed. So the Global Anti-Scam Alliance is a non-profit organization where we bring together governments, law enforcement, brand protection organizations, registries, registrars, to share knowledge, but also especially to come together to define concrete solutions to fight online scams. And scamadvisor.com is a business-to-consumer brand. We have more than 4 million unique visitors a month at the moment who used ScamAdvisor to check if a website is legit or a possible scam. So maybe a little bit more about ScamAdvisor. How it works is any consumer, but also you as a business user, can type in a domain name, and real time we do an analysis. What's the likelihood of this website being legit or possibly a scam? And we also explain why we think the website is legit or a possible scam. So enough about Gaza and ScamAdvisor. I've been asked to give a brief overview of our study on the global state of scams. But before I do that, maybe just I'm still a professor, so I like to have definitions of what are scams. Scams are a weird kind of crime because it's the only crime where you can fall for. Also, as a result, people often blame themselves for falling for a scam, which is not true because it's a crime. You did not commit the crime. You are not the one at fault. But still, it's ingrained in ourselves that unfortunately we feel shamed when we fall for a scam. How we define scams is it's not as easy as with a phishing link or an IP infringement or malware. There is a gray area. And how we define scams is when there's a clear gap between what's being promised and what's delivered. And that can be a product like you see on screen, but it can also be a service. So what types of scams are there? And very honestly, many of the scams we now see online are the same scams we saw 100 years or even 1,000 years back. It's the same wine in new bottles. And there are hundreds of types. What is interesting to see is how some scams are so wild and still people fall for it. Just last week in the news, there was a Japanese lady, 65 years old, and she paid a scammer 35,000 euros. And this scammer was claiming to be an astronaut being stuck in space, and he needed money to go back to Earth. And yes, we probably don't fall for scams, but what we've at least for this kind of scam, but what I've learned is everybody at least once in his lifetime falls for a scam. The most common type of scam on ScamAdvisor are the online shopping scams. And maybe Rickard, maybe I can ask you, what do these ads have in common?
Great products and low price. I would buy them all.
Absolutely. Too good to be true. Too low prices. There's one other thing they have in common, and that's they're all on Facebook. And we will talk about Facebook a little bit down the road. Um, Apart from online shopping scams, what we see a lot of scammers Pfizer are the cryptocurrency scams. Those are really very strong on the rise, and I always give this scam as an example: the Squid Game. It was very popular Netflix series 1 year ago, and in only 5 days, this scammer was able to take $3.4 million from victims who thought they were investing into the Squid Game crypto coin, and it proved to be a scam. What we see is that scammers are great marketeers. They take annual events to annually do the same scam over and over. They use crises, including, unfortunately, the Ukraine war, to get to lure people to pay money, and trends like the NFT tokens. Even the death of Queen Elizabeth is used for a scam. We came across scams where people were offered tickets to the funeral. You just had to pay in advance. And scammers are really also vicious. We come across this kind of scams. Last year, the state of Texas decided to make it illegal to buy abortion pills. And already 3 months ahead, we saw the first scammers opening up web shops selling abortion pills, targeting young women in Texas. And the scam doesn't stop by not delivering the goods, because after not delivering the goods, the emails came with, hey, you bought these abortion pills. If you don't pay more, we're going to tell mom and dad that you ordered these. So they're really vicious. A question I often get is, how big are online scams? And every year we analyze about 48 countries to see how much money is being lost in scams, how much scams are reported, and what are governments actually doing to prevent consumers, their citizens, from getting scammed. And unfortunately, but also expectedly, the number of scams is increasing very, very sharply. Last year, we had 293 million reports of scams, and we now estimate the amount of money being lost globally to be more than $55 billion. Very honestly, we think it's only the tip of the iceberg, because what we noticed is that depending on the country, between 3 and 17% of all scams are actually reported. On average, 7% of the scams are reported globally. So we're only seeing a very small part of the actual money being lost. What we noticed last year is that the amount of money being lost grew much faster than the number of reports. And that's because investment scams are becoming very, very popular, and people lose a lot more money in investment scams than in online shopping scams or subscription scams. So now, at the moment, online fraud is in most countries either the first or the second most reported type of crime. And in the UK, is leading at the moment with more than 31% of all reports coming to the police are related to online fraud. And as I said, it's only the tip of the iceberg, because we see that most people do not report scams because they are ashamed, or in some countries, you cannot even report scams because the police says it's your own fault, you fell for it. And what we also see, and I already named Facebook, is that the social media platforms are being used more and more as a platform to get in contact with scammers, with victims. So they are still using Google, they're still using other email, but social media are more and more the stepping stone for scammers to reach out to victims. And one of the interesting studies done by which the UK Consumer Protection Organization is that actually many of the scam ads being reported to Google and to Facebook are not taken down quickly enough. So who gets scammed? And usually when I'm in a live audience, I ask people to raise their hand, and nobody raises their hand, either because they think they have not been scammed, but probably because they don't want to admit it. But a few weeks ago, I talked to the chief security officer of one of the largest security companies in the world. And he admitted that he received a text message from his CEO to arrange a gift card of $200 for a client. And he quickly bought the gift card, he sent the code, and he only became aware that, hey, I'm being scammed, when he immediately got a second message from his CEO that, okay, can you now buy a Google gift card as well? So anybody, even in the security industry and on a very high level, can get scammed. And that's what has happened. The reason why is because we're being bombarded by scams. We see that in many countries, the number of consumers who report that they have received phishing mails, scam mails, is increasing very rapidly. And as a result, we're likely to at least fall once for a scam in our lifetimes, and probably faster. And especially in developing countries nowadays, we see a sharp rise in the number of scams because due to the corona epidemic, they have been forced to go online for their shopping and for their services needs. And they are inexperienced. They are new to the internet. And as a result, a very easy victim. Another change we see, another trend is that it used to be elderly people who get scammed more. This is data from the Federal Trade Commission. And in 2018, it was very clear that especially elderly people were victimized more and also lost more money because they were especially targeted by investment scams. Now things are changing. It's the young people who get scammed more and more, but also lose more money. And that's not only in the USA, we see that also in Finland and many other countries that the younger generations are targeted more. And because they are online more, they also often lose more money in the scam. Another trend we see is that consumers, and we do this survey every year amongst about 4,000 to 5,000 consumers, most of the consumers, 76%, think that they can identify scams. But it's sad to know that then 73% of those 76% admit that they have fallen for a scam recently because and they lost money or they lost private information. So what we also see is that scammers are going pro. They're professionalizing at a very rapid rate. Rickard, maybe you can help me. Which of these websites do you think is fake? You want to make a bet?
Yeah, just by looking at it, I would say like all have menus. They have all shopping carts. Sign in, create an account, money back guarantee. I would say left one is fake.
The left one. And unfortunately, well, I'm not sure if you see the same left, but the one VionicShoes.com is legit and the one Ireland not. But they've looked both very professional. And the only indicator I think you actually would have gotten is find a store. That's usually not something used by a scammer because they don't have physical stores and don't want to be found.
Or and the domain name, like
yeah, the domain name is definitely a giveaway. Absolutely.
If I would have seen the domain name, which I didn't, that on the first one, like then I would then if there's a domain name that's less relevant or something strange going with the domain name, that's usually a good tip.
Yeah, definitely. What we noticed in mobile users, they don't see the domain name. They just click, and because it's so small and often not even visible in their mobile browser, that's not, for consumers, no longer a giveaway. Another development we see, which is really scary, is that we all familiar with the Indian call centers doing scamming people by calling them and saying that they have a technical problem. We see the same thing with now arising with prison camps. So people are lured from, especially from Taiwan and China, to countries like Bangladesh with promises of a good job. And then they're actually imprisoned to continuously scam people using scripts. And as you can see, a lot of phones, and they're not allowed to leave. We also see that scams are offered, just like cybercrime, more and more as a service. You can buy fake investment websites and you can hire people to get fake reviews or to get traffic illegally to your website. So the industry is professionalizing at a very, very rapid rate. My biggest fear is that scams are becoming unrecognizable. This is the Financial Control Service of Grenada. The website looks incredible legit and also incredible boring. It just looks like a government website. And the trick is that they contact you saying that they've been able to recover your money from a cryptocurrency scam. You just have to pay an administration fee to get your money back. And it's often the same scammer who is approaching the scam victim who lost money in such a cryptocurrency scam to get more money. Because once you have paid the administration fee, you have to pay a tax fee. And if you pay the tax fee, you're never getting your money back. And we also see deep AI being used more and more to create fake photos. All these people do not exist. It was created by an AI. And we see the same with deep fake videos, that it will become very, very difficult for a normal consumer and even professional to recognize scams. So my conclusion is at the moment that scammers are winning. Scams are becoming a global business where you see certain countries, and I have to admit, including the Netherlands, professionalize in certain industries. So unfortunately, in the Netherlands, there are a lot of bulletproof hosters active. And while the police is trying to take them down, it's still a uphill battle. And we see other countries specializing in certain scams, and they are exporting their scams worldwide. And the reason why scams are growing so quickly is that it's easy money, it's low investment, it's low risk, and the chances of actually being caught are at the moment estimated by the World Economic Forum to be 0.05%. So it's just a very good business to be in. Finally, how can we help as Gaza and as Scam Advisor? Many of you are registries or registrars or hosting companies, or you are brand protection. And how we can help you is we are very willing to share our data with you so that you can monitor all the domains which are using your infrastructure or your services. Or if you're a brand, please send us your bad domain names, because we love to have those to warn consumers. And if you send it to us, we will distribute it again to the registries, to the registrars, but also to antivirus companies like Trend Micro, to internet filters, and to search engines and social media, so that they are aware that this website is bad and action should be taken. Finally, Alona was already saying it at the beginning. On the 9th and 10th, we're organizing our hybrid event, both virtually as well as physically. And if you're interested in joining our event and discuss with more than 1,100 other registrants how we can combat online scams together, you're very welcome to join. And with that, I would like to conclude and give the floor back to Alona. Alona, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jorij, for this presentation. That was super eye-revealing for me. Like now I'm like, it's so interesting and so insightful to get this information about how this like, online scam works inside, and to have this information about the statistics and the trends that are there. And for me, it's like quite hard and sad to believe that the scammers are winning, right? As you said, that they are becoming smarter, not the way around, that the consumers are becoming smarter. And I have like a personal questions after this presentation. Whose responsibility do you think is to educate the consumers? Like, is it brands who shall do the work? Is it government? Is it the brand protection companies? Like, who shall be educating people how to make the difference?
It's an interesting question. We actually asked that to the consumers in one of our surveys, and the answer was that they feel that consumer protection organizations should take the lead in protecting them. My personal opinion is it's a responsibility of all of us, because I mean, educating consumers is more difficult than educating your kids. You have to repeat, and that's only something we can do together. So everybody should communicate and help consumers how to stay safe, how to check links before they click on it, and maybe not buy something which is 80% cheaper than the real thing.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense. Thanks for answering this. And I would just wanted to say to the people who joined us today, if you have any questions regarding the presentation that you already just shared, please put your questions into the chat box, and we will make sure to answer them during the webinar. But we also, like when we were promoting the event online, we also asked people to submit the questions to us in advance. So I have a couple of questions from before, from like submitted in advance. So let's start maybe with them. Yuri, I think that the question more to you. What are the biggest obstacles for the effective anti-scam activity? What are the biggest obstacles?
The biggest obstacles, I think, are scammers operate globally, and our biggest struggle is they operate globally, and they operate never in their own country, at least the smart ones, and they spread their scams. So we have identified scam networks which contain more than 10,000 websites, and they are active in 80 countries. And as a result, there are 3 reports for one website in France. There are 2 reports in the USA. There are 8 reports in Brazil. And nobody notices because it's so spread and we don't share data. And our biggest challenge or blocking is that we need to collaborate globally to first identify these scammers and then apprehend them. And in the apprehension there, the biggest problem is, and we talk a lot with law enforcement, is that if you want to have somebody arrested in another country, it takes at least 6 months to get that done. And then the scammer is gone.
That's a lot. Yeah, it seems now that there are a lot of obstacles and challenges in on that road. Interesting. And we have another question again submitted to us. Rickard, I think that's from your area. How to find balance between protection of personal data and combating scams? What do you think?
That is a very good one, and it's getting more and more actualized, like with GDPR, with California introducing their private data privacy laws, and so on. It's like the whole WHOIS system of the internet was created for one reason: to find the person behind a specific domain name, a specific IP address. But today, with WHOIS protection, WHOIS privacy, there's so many ways to hide who is actually behind the domain name. That is something, like, I think we need to find a way, maybe not today, but within the next 5 to 10 years, like how we can communicate within like the different organizations on the internet, like everything from Interpol to Europol to national law enforcement agencies to companies like global anti-scam advisors, just to find this try to find a balance, because today, like you were saying, they're winning, and it won't, like, they will still do that 10 years from now if we don't do anything with it. And it's politics, it's on EU level, it's on a national level, to be able to find this kind of tools to find who is behind the domain name. That shouldn't be visible for everyone, like the WHOIS system maybe, but maybe it should be visible to a certain groups that are law enforcement agencies, as one example.
Law enforcement or brand protection companies that are doing this, that actually are doing the law enforcement when they identify the suspicious sites, right?
Brand protection, that is like, depending what it is. Like if it is a major scam, because it's also that level of privacy, who have access to that data, who can do it, and why. And that, like, the question was, like, how can we balance that? Because it's not an easy balance, because the privacy on the internet is as important to fight as fighting scam.
Right. I know that in Belgium they are discussing on the governmental level this new directive where when whose information might be available on request by certain parties, but this is again still in the discussion, and I don't know how many years it will take to make that happen. So we'll see.
May I comment on that, Alona?
Yeah, of course.
I personally, I think the GDPR legislation is the worst export product ever created by the EU. I think, and it's being used as an excuse to not show data into who is. My personal opinion is, if you want to open a physical store or you want to open a bank, then you have to identify yourself. You have to be certified. You have to follow trainings. You have to have licenses. But if you do the same thing online, it's suddenly no longer necessary. And I really think we should take a step back. That if you are offering a commercial service on the internet, you have to go through the same hoops. There is no privacy because you're offering a service to consumers. Love to at the end maybe see what the audience is thinking about this.
Yeah, and we have for example, the comment from Vivek Goyal. I think he says, I think GDPR is not the problem; it is the interpretation of the same by the DNS industry. And yeah, completely agree with Yori. And we have a question.
I agree with you.
And we have a question like, do you think that the CCTLDs are recognizing the problem and taking the steps to mitigate it?
I would say CCTLDs is better than the GTLDs because it's usually a more controlled environment. It's because CCTLDs are more focused on having a good zone. Sorry, some GTLDs, but CCTLDs, in my opinion, is usually better. And there's always there's actually someone to talk to on the national level.
And they actually can make this difference in their respective country, right? Where they're coming from.
And it's just a matter of finding that right person at the registry, because that person usually cares, because you need to find someone that cares about it. And same thing with the hosters, same thing with everyone. You need to find someone like, okay, this is a problem. We need to fix this and understand that it is a problem. And usually at hosting companies, at registrars, at registries, there's always someone that understands it if it is a valid case. Because it could also be like not valid ones. But if there's a valid case, then should always be someone to talk to.
Okay. So for the CCTLD part, it's better than for GTLDs in this specific case, as you said, if I can sum it up. And we have another question from Spencer Yu. Why are social media sites less compliant in removing ads and posts that have positively been identified as a scam?
May I answer that one?
Yeah, please.
Money. Very honestly, I think that's the real reason. We see that the scammers are. Last year, we came across a scammer who spent more than 3 million euros on Google Ads before they were taken off online. I mean, I know the social media platforms and search engines, they are taking action to prevent scammers, but it's a thin line, because if you make it too difficult to advertise, then you get less money. So I'm very honestly, I think it's money motivated.
Okay, that might be interesting.
And it might not be money like as an active decision. It might just be that it's too much to actually moderate, or it's so hard to do this at a scale. Same thing with entire internet, because it's at scale. It could be so many ads that you need to go through, because you have seen like what is called like the scam that was super popular like 2 years ago, like the famous people Bitcoin scam. Like this person invested into something on Facebook. Just go around by like you spend around on the Facebook via hacked accounts, tagging people here and there and up and down, and that's how it went around.
I agree with you that, I mean, hacked accounts, that's a different issue, but the number of companies who advertise on Facebook with 10% return on investment per week. I mean, come on. And I think the problem is that it's often a gray area. And I think, very honestly, if Facebook would start with have a more due diligence process, there will be a lot less scammers if they know who is actually advertising on their platform. So I think there's more work to be done by not only Facebook and Google, it's everybody. And it's not, I know it's not as easy as I'm saying, but we need to do more.
Yep.
And it's always a common, a mutual effort that a lot of the companies and a lot of the institutions should do together. And we have another question, how do you recommend to quickly find out the true registrar or hosting provider of a domain using Cloudflare without going through the Cloudflare itself? That's a good one. There are always a lot of talks around the Cloudflare.
I can answer that one. Like, the way we do it at DomainCrawler is basically looking at the old DNS data of that domain name. So if you have a domain name, most domain names weren't born only using Cloudflare. They were at some other hosting company. They were like we had that domain registrar, something that you can tie that domain name to a hosting company, a domain registrar, a server somewhere in the world, by looking at the historical data around that domain name. That is the way. And of course, even though that someone is using Cloudflare name servers and Anycast HTTP, like for web, then I will go after the domain registrar and try to go after them. But again, also finding the hosting company, it's pretty doable by using the historical DNS data.
May I add to that, Alona?
Of course, please, Jorij. Yeah, that would be interesting.
But it's also interesting. I mean, we are using a lot of DomainCrawler's data, and the historic data is really helping us a lot. And also, we're using DomainCrawler to see, okay, which other websites are on the same server. And especially with if we find one bad website, we use DomainCrawler to check all the other websites on the same server. And that really helps in seeing, okay, is this actually a server owned by a scammer? Yeah, definitely I can strongly recommend it, using it.
Great, thank you. And we have the comment that the register from John McCormack, that the registrar data is still included in GTLD whois data. The personal data is often obscured.
Yeah. No, but absolutely. Like I said, that is, I will start with that, but also looking if that is changed to like a bulletproof hosting company somewhere in the world, I will look, okay, where was this domain name registered? Were it registered somewhere else? To start looking at the traces of that domain name. Also, like we found, like me and Alona, I think a year or 2 years ago, we're sitting with some brand protection agency, and we found basically the staging server for that scammers. So we saw that, okay, from this server, a few domains went to Cloudflare, but then we had like 50 domain names with fake shops for a lot of different like luxury fashion brands on that server on one public IP address, and they didn't have password protection or anything on those domain names, only drop catched European CCTLDs. So we found like even scammers are lazy and bad, and that's a way to exploit them as well.
Exactly, I remember that case, and when we were showing that, we were surprised, and the customer was also shocked and surprised by seeing that, like how quickly it can be accessed and seen. So that was nice. We have another question. From Berend, how is the police approach evolving? Are harsher punishments being handed out now? I think, Jorij, that the question more to your expertise.
Nice to see you, Berend. Yes and no. We see in the 48 countries we analyzed, we see that they're developing new cybercrime legislation, and the punishments are increasing, but it's a very slow process because it's legislation. But we see that the punishments are slowly increasing, still very low in most countries, but increasing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Thanks for answering this one. I have a couple of more that were submitted to us before. So we have a question from the registrar, actually. And he asks, as a domain registrar, how can we help fight scams? Yeah.
I can take that one.
Mhm.
Being a registrar for the last 15 years, to be able to respond to abuse emails, like if there is someone coming with a legitimate claim, to have a process in the domain registrar to actually handle that. Like we had, like if there was someone complaining about something, that it actually was brought to my attention, that okay, this is a valid case, we need to do something about it. Because in the end of the day, that's how you like reduce abuse, like issues, support requests, and actually having an efficient organization by, first of all, removing those customers from your customer base,
Mhm.
because those customers will never ever be long-term customers. You don't want them. You want, like, if you want to build a long-term business, you need like sustainable customers that and your lifetime value and your lifetime need to be like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That's what you should aim for, not having a lifetime of a customer of just 1 year, because you will make quick money, but not in the long run.
Yeah.
That's how it's very short-sighted.
Exactly. So when it comes to the registrar, they need to know the registrar business. They need to know their customer base and understand who their users are, where they're coming from, what they're using, for what they're using, how they are developing the sites, right? And at the end of the day, they want the healthy profile of the user, and the idea is to get more of those and like lower the number of the bad ones, like those that abuse the site.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the way to build a sustainable business, to do that. And that's what I say to every hoster, every domain registrar out there. Like, do that to find a long-term business.
Yeah. If I may add to that, I fully agree with what Rickard is saying. I mean, I think every registry, hosting company should use an abuse monitoring tool, and they should know what's happening on their platform. Because if they don't, then I think in the future there will be more and more consequences. I mean, currently certain TLDs we already on Scam in our algorithm, because there's so much abuse for those TLDs, we already start to lower their rating for all the TLDs, because yeah, if 40% is misused, then it's not good. And I think that we are not the only one. I mean, other organizations are also slowly starting to see, well, okay, it's this hosting company again and again and again, and there will be more consequences, and police will start to knock more aggressively on those doors.
We had
Exactly.
one customer of DomainCrawler. I know that like their strategy was like being super annoying. Like there was a brand protection agency. Their strategy was being super annoying to every and anyone that worked at that company. Like taking on Facebook, calling them, like everyone that worked at that company, because then like that the employees of that hoster is like, this it's not worth having this customer, because I get calls every Saturday from this brand protection agency whining about a domain name. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I should just do it, because I don't want to have this call on every Saturday. So, like, because then it's also being a little better.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. We also have we have a comment from Vivek Goyal. He says the registrars and hosting providers can participate in industry efforts such as NetBeacon, and we have the DNSAbuseInstitute.org, Scam Advisor. This is another project, and we have as I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, sub project from ICANN. So that is like the common efforts, the united efforts. That is interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Vivek. We'll look more about it. So we have a question from Luigi. What is a brand detection agency?
Brand protection, I think, was the
Brand detection.
I think it's a brand protection agency was the word I used. So, and someone that helps a brand owner to protect the brand, find malicious, counterfeit websites, someone that works together with a brand to see that the brand name is not misused on the internet and also in physical stores.
Exactly. Yeah. And we, like from the DomainCrawler, we help brand protection companies, cybersecurity companies, with finding the data to detect the infringement cases on the internet, like among all of the TLDs. And we have another comment from Oscar. I think ICANN was working some years ago on the alternative to his protocol to be able to expose some personal data about the domain's registrant. Any news on that? I think they are still discussing that. So they are. It takes some time, right? And from what I know, there is no update regarding that. Still discussing in Belgium. Jorij, Rickard, do you have any news on that?
Not you're the one going to ICANN meetings. I'm not going there.
I don't have any news, and I will leave it at politically correct at that.
Okay, then we know what we know. We know that it's still discussing. Then we have a comment from John McCormack. Some of the new GTLDs can see over 80% zone replacement in approximately a year. The problem is not simply a few registration.
I have a very good solution for that.
Yeah.
Just increase the prices. And then you will have a much better retention rate. Like what we saw with .info, was that 15 years ago when they did like $1 a year .info campaigns. There was a lot of things going on there.
Yep.
And so just increase the price and it will go away.
Yeah, and it's not only .info, it's .shop. There are several TLDs which experiment with very low prices, and the customers you're getting, you get a massive amount of complaints, which all take time, increasing your costs. You make yourself very unpopular in the industry, and you're not making money because they're gone after. Well, they're usually you have to take them down, or they're gone after a year because it's not their business to be in business. It's in business to do bad things.
Exactly. I think that is what's happening.
Yes.
And I've been told that we have another question that I missed. So here it is. In the chart, I think that is regarding the presentation. In the chart showing the growth of scams, I noted a nearly 200% growth in this crime for Poland, but no indication of monetization. Does this mean that the Poles are observant and don't trust scammers, or we just don't track this figure in Poland? This behavior of Poles is very similar to Czechs. That's why I was interested in this figure. Yuri, could you please comment on that?
I'm very sure that the Polish people are very observant, but it's probably because we don't have data on the amount of money being lost in Poland. I would happy to share our report with you, where for every country we have more detailed analytics where you can look at. But I'm sorry, I don't know it from top of my head.
Okay. But this will be like in the report that we will be sharing to the participants, right?
Yes, happy to share.
Okay, that's nice. What else do we have? We have a question from Teresa. Miron, which are the elements that are taken into account in order to consider a scam website, like risk scores, in what they are based on?
Shall I take that one?
Yeah, I can do a little bit what I've been looking at. It's a lot of re-registration of domain names. If a domain name was something else, re-register it, and then there's I don't know if it was a a fashion blog in the Netherlands, and all of a sudden it's selling like luxury fashion bags or handbags. Then it's those kind of thing. Like if the domain name doesn't add up with what it's selling, or if it's not like technically, if it's on Cloudflare with some domain registrar that's not used by like larger brands, that is kind of things. Or if it's just a brand new domain name, how long have the domain name been around? These are things connected to it. The owner of the domain name, usually the like larger corporations have themselves as owner of the domain names, not who is protection. Just also for themselves to see, we own this site, because then it's easier for themselves to filter out domain names that they already own. It's ease of their work. So I would say these are the elements I would be looking at. And then of course, like how payment system, what's in their shipping methods, these kind of things.
Okay, thank you, Rickard. Jorij, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of what Rickard named is included in our algorithm. Also, still a lot of things to improve, but also simple things. I mean, the website, according to DomainCrawler, is 3 days old, and we check Trustpilot, we crawl Trustpilot, and there are 200 positive reviews. I mean, you cannot have 200 positive reviews and be 3 days old. That's bullshit. But you would be amazed how many websites we identify which are just doing this. Currently, there's a investment scam going around, and within 1 month they bought 2,900 reviews on Trustpilot. Come on, I mean, you cannot be 1 month old and have 2,900 positive reviews on Trustpilot. The nice thing is, I mean, as Rickard was already saying, scammers are lazy, but very honestly, they're also not often that smart. And they pay people to leave reviews, and as a result, Scam Advisor is getting very positive reviews about scammers on our platform. And we know that if a lot of people leave very positive reviews on a domain on scamadvisor.com, something is really, really wrong.
Yeah. And we have a question like, are you planning to add this kind of risk scoring to your domain's database? I guess that's the question to the domain crawler. Rickard, could you elaborate on that?
Usually this is what our customers add on top of our data. So we provide the data, because it's a lot where you just collect, sort, and structure all the information. And then the risk scoring, that's usually our brand protection agencies, our customers, that provide that data, and then that's their knowledge, that's what they do. And everyone does that differently, and they're really good at it. So we have the filters, we have everything. You can do it in the platform, but it's these tweaks that we leave to our customers usually.
Yeah, we can provide some kind of the signals, but the scoring itself, we'll leave it to the customer base. We have another question. In your experience, has Cloudflare improved the abuse response services, or is it declining? That's an interesting one.
Jorij, what do you think?
Jorij, Rickard?
I was hoping you were going to answer that. I think it's about the same. No, maybe it improves slightly. But also here, and I mean, there's room for improvement.
Okay. We have Rickard is laughing. Yeah.
But there's room for improvements, of course. But on the other side, if I would have this is the easy solution to Cloudflare, this is how you would do it, I would call someone at Cloudflare to say, okay, please solve it in this way. But there is not one smart solution for this problem. That is,
unfortunately,
that is the problem. And then we have tried to work around it, because whatever we do, if it's not Cloudflare, then people go somewhere else. Like the Cloudflare service, like for us being a hosting company, my other Internet Vikings, it's an amazing service. It's the best service to protect your hosting infrastructure. And so I don't want them to be able, like someone to find out the IP address behind Cloudflare, because then DDoSes will increase instead. That's also really bad for the internet. So there's not
It's
one
two
good
sides,
solution.
like
Yeah. Maybe to emphasize, it's not the registrar, it's not the registry, it's everybody who's offering services who is responsible for doing their best to keep the bad boys out, including, for example, Company House. Company House is the Chamber of Commerce of the UK, and at the moment, for £12, you can set up a company. They don't do much due diligence for £12, and as a result, I think Company House is at the moment the most used how to set up a company quickly by scammers. So it's not only the internet which has to be improved. It's everybody has to take responsibility for what's happening on their platform with their services.
agree. Absolutely true. Yeah. I think we are running out of time. And so I would like to say a couple of thank you words for our speakers and to all of the people who joined us today. Thank you for being active and thank you for asking all of the questions. We really appreciate it, and that made this webinar more interesting and more more custom, more interactive. And thank you, Jorij, thank you, Rickard, for this talk, for the presentation. It's been really insightful, and I hope that now we are all armed with this knowledge and we will make the scam lives a little bit less pleasant, and we will make a difference in fighting them online. And as promised, if you are interested in attending the Global Anti-Scam Summit organized by Gaza in November 9th, 10th in The Hague, in person, that is offline event, which is super nice nowadays. We are sharing the promo code in the chat box. And with this promo code, you will receive the discount for like 50%, which is amazing. And you will be able to join this event offline in November soon. I'm going myself there, so really looking forward to that one. Also, we will make sure to share the recording, to share the slides and the presentation for all of the people who registered and took part in this webinar. So thank you again all for joining and for presenting this great information. We appreciate you being here today with us. Please visit our website, follow us on LinkedIn, follow Gasa on LinkedIn, and we will see you next time in our upcoming events. Have a nice rest of your day and take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.